All right, we are recording, and I want to say thank you so very much for being here. PacWest Bigfoot. This is David, and real quick, um, lots of interesting things going to be happening next week. I've got something really awesome to share with you, and be honest with you guys, I am really nervous about it, but I hope that you will share in the journey here and share in the walk and totally enjoy what I will be sharing with you. It is something actually that has been requested of you, and I would like to fulfill that. And so I'm going to work on that right now. And I'm working on it this month. As a matter of fact, also something people keep requesting is my own encounter story as a campfire-like story. So I've decided I'm going to go ahead and do it, and I'm going to share that with you. I'll be writing that up probably around the last week of this month, and it's going to take me about the whole week to write it up because it actually there was 2 different incidences, and they happened within a span of 20 years apart, and within about, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 miles apart from each other, 2 or 3 miles or whatever. So those are actually pretty interesting, but that's what's going on. That's what's happening. But right now we're going to get into this week's PacWest Bigfoot interview. And we're talking with Mike. Mike is, just so you know, guys, Mike is actually Mike from Bigfoot's Wilderness. Not kidding, that YouTube channel. I've mentioned it many times. And I'm telling you guys, got to get over there. Good stuff happening. But Mike has his own encounters and incidences as well. And he's here to kind of share that with us. And you're here, Mike, right?
I'm here.
Right on, man. Right on. So usually, you know how this goes. I'm just going to get in here and you're going to go ahead and just share with us, what you experienced, all the little details in between, because I know a lot of time, this whole community here with PacWest Bigfoot, we love these reports and things turned into encounter stories and stuff and all of that. But we also like to get in here and get into these interviews because this actually helps with folks who are in like pure research, and it really gives them kind of an insight into the world of cryptids and Bigfoot. So if you want, go ahead and start with them, man.
Okay. Well, this is going back a couple of months, so this is fairly recent. It was actually a spring break I had planned with my wife and kids, and it was the end of April, and we were just going to take a few days and do something different. Usually we'll go somewhere to Western North Carolina or maybe to the beach or just somewhere for a couple of days. Nothing spectacular, but my wife had decided that she wanted to do an Airbnb and rent a cabin for a couple of days. I didn't really put a lot of thought into it. I think we did talk about it a few times because we were, trying to kind of hype it up to my son and like, oh, there's hiking and there's, different things to do. And the area is, I can give a little detail. It's in Greene County, Virginia, which is north of Charlottesville, Virginia.
Okay.
And I guess that's really all I want to say on that, because the owner of the Airbnb is adding more homes. So I think it would not be a great thing for him if I publicize.
Or maybe an awesome thing. Who knows?
You never know. But I don't know.
Just chat with him about it and see what he says.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to have that conversation, but I'm not sure he believes what I saw. But I'm pretty impressed, and I'm a little frazzled to this day. And I honestly have to tell you, I think about it every single day. It has made an impact on me. But so anyway, it was end of April. We took our trip out there, and our GPS actually kind of went out on us for a few seconds as we missed the turn, because it's literally a mile into the woods. So I think we had no GPS to track us, but we found a sign that led us to this driveway, and it literally looked like a bulldozer had just made this driveway. It was about as wide as our Subaru. we went down the trail, and there was a little bit of gravel, and
took a small cat and just drilling it out himself, huh?
right, pretty much. And it was creepy. We pulled up. I'm like, oh my god, is this it? And they're like, yeah, this is where we're staying. So we pull up, and there's a little gravel road that's kind of like a landing that goes behind the cabin, and we park our car there, and we take our bags inside, and give ourselves the tour. And my son and I go outside, and we just kind of walk around to just check out the area. There's in front of the cabin is a big open area and the cabin sits maybe 15 feet above the ground below it, and in front of it, about 100 feet, maybe a little bit more, is a stream, a pretty fast flowing stream, not a river, but a
Mhm.
stream, maybe 15 feet wide, and just beautiful, gorgeous. Sky's blue. It's a beautiful day. We go out, and my son and I go hiking and walk around, and we get up to the stream bank, about 100 yards left of the cabin, and I kid you not, down on the bank is a footprint, and I look down at it, and I look around to my right, to my left, and I'm just like, is somebody playing a joke on me? There's this footprint. I wear a size 16 shoe,
Mhm.
and it wasn't as big as my shoe. My foot was bigger, but this was wider. And
Mm.
I had my knife on me. I have a little Gerber knife. It's fairly big, but I always take it with me when I go hiking or camping or whatever. And I laid it down next to the print, and it was about 10 inches.
Mhm.
I took a picture of it, and I was pretty surprised. I mean, it was actually kind of freaky because the footprint, you could actually see where the foot lifted, and the big toe was the last part that touched the gravel and stepped into the stream and walked across.
Oh, wow.
I was blown away. I mean, the picture's actually on my story, which I have on my channel. It's called The Bigfoot Incident. If you want to look at it, that's
Mhm.
fine. You can see the pictures that I actually took. But as I'm sitting here staring at the footprint, I'm hearing talking. Now, I can't verify what it was talking, but there were some sharp tones up and down, kind of deep, and it was across the stream where there's a dirt road that kind of goes back to somebody else's property. I
Mhm.
couldn't see anybody, but it was fairly loud. Anyway, I didn't really think much of it. I just, I think I was kind of smiling and kind of like giggling to myself, like, am I seeing what I'm seeing right here? Like, how could I just walk right up and see this? But the footprint was fresh.
Mhm.
So anyway, I show it to my son, and he's busy throwing rocks in the water. He's not paying any attention. So
How old was he?
he's 12, not the least bit interested, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
I know that one.
We're, we're floating sticks down the stream and stuff like that. So we uh we walk away, and I walk him back into the house, and I realize my hiking boots are covered in mud. So I go back to my car, which is behind the cabin, and I have my remote, and I hit the remote, and the tailgate lifts automatically. So it makes a couple of noises and pops up. So I'm sitting in my car in the back hatch, and I'm changing my shoes, and from nowhere, it's dead silent. I'll do a recreation, but I'm it's not gonna be that
No,
impactful.
go
But
ahead.
the I was sitting there and looking at my shoes, and tearing them off my feet and putting on different shoes, and I hear on a hill above the landing, because I guess basically the cabin is like cut out of the mound of the hill, and there are a heavy wood line above the back of the cabin, and I just start to hear ooh, 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 and it was getting louder and louder. And I stood
Mm.
up, and I looked exactly where I thought it was coming from. And the only thing I could think to myself was, why does it sound like it's right next to me? I looked behind the cabin. I looked to the side of the cabin. I looked up the hill. I looked everywhere. I could not see anything. And I was expecting, again, here I am doubting myself, someone to say something, someone to laugh. I thought it was a joke. I thought my kids were maybe inside. I was in complete denial.
With
I,
some voice throwing app.
yeah, here I am. I'm the one taking people's stories, and I have to say that I think a majority of my stories that I put on my channel are given to me that are true, and I'm having a real experience, and I'm not believing what I'm seeing or hearing, and it just really threw me, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was just like, this is so. I finished changing my shoes, and I walked up the hill a little bit. I don't have a gun. All I have is a knife, and I don't expect to use it. But it's in the back of my pocket. But I walk up the hill a little bit just to see if I see anything. I can't see anything. The woods are thick. It's late April, so the leaves are on the trees. I mean, it's pretty thick. And I guess the interesting part is whatever this was above me, probably 15 to 20 feet above me, if not more. But the tone, how people say it was so loud I could feel it?
Mm-hmm.
I felt it. And it was truly bizarre. And I went ahead and clacked my dirty shoes, put them in the car, turned on the remote, shut the hatch, and I went inside. And I tried not to think about it because I guess my situation is I don't want to antagonize something that I can't potentially protect myself from or my family.
Yeah.
So maybe an hour later, we all got in the car, went out to lunch. We went to go see Avengers Endgame, which I was going to see later that night, but I had told my wife, why don't we just do this a little bit earlier so we don't get back at the house at like midnight? And well, it didn't quite work out. We did see the movie. We had dinner, did the whole thing. And we came back about 9:30 at night. And I will tell you that we missed our entrance coming in and then had to turn around and go back and find the entrance to go back in because it's pretty well hidden. Mm-hmm. And we pull up into the driveway, and it is, what you would expect, pitch black. There is nothing to be seen. You can't, we're sitting in the car and when
didn't leave a light on.
No, no, we did. We must have completely forgot. But I've got my phone with its flashlight, and my daughter has her phone with her flashlight. My wife has her flashlight. We're trying to see. Once the dome light goes out, it's just pitch black. So we're getting out of the car, and everybody's creeped out. No word, nothing was spoken about anything. My son and daughter run to the cabin door with the key. I never said a word to them. They took off. They were immediately creeped out. My wife is like trying to pick up trash in the back of the car that the kids had left. And she seems to be not feeling that creeped out feature as much as the rest of us. But standing outside the car, and I'm staring at the hill behind the cabin, and I'm just like, I feel like there's something there. I can't see it. I can't hear it. But I'm the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. And
yeah.
I don't really enjoy that feeling, but I'm telling my wife, like, just leave it there. It'll be fine. We'll be okay. We can clean it up tomorrow morning. It doesn't matter. We don't have a big trash can in the cabin. So what does it matter? So I eventually get her to go inside. I come in behind her. And I guess I'll take a pause on that for a second, because the funny part is that my son said to me after this all had happened, do you remember what you did at the door when we went inside? And I said, no, what did I do? He said, you took off your hoodie. I had like a zip down hoodie. I'm a large person. I'm about 6'4", 250. And, when you spread out the hoodie, it's a big jacket. I took the hoodie and I covered the door with it. I had apparently I had an overwhelming sense that something was staring at us. And the main door to the cabin, the other doors had blinds, or the other windows had blinds, but the main door did not. and it was just an open door with glass going top to bottom. And I was, for some reason, I guess I immediately covered the door. Like I felt like something was potentially watching me. And I didn't remember doing that, but my son actually told me that. And actually forgot to add that in the story, but that was kind of bizarre. That night, I didn't sleep too well. I slept okay. But the next morning, we went home, and before we left, oh no, I'm sorry. That night, I didn't sleep well, and I heard a bark in the middle of the night, like a uh, it had to be a dog, but it was a loud bark. And I can't say it was a dog, but I think it was a dog. It kind of bothered me. You know, I'm seeing a print, I'm hearing a noise, I'm hearing a bark. What was that? You know, I'm putting it all in my head, like, you know, and I'm just causing myself to not sleep.
Mhm.
The next morning, we're leaving. I have most of the suitcases in the car, and I guess we finished breakfast and I'm moving everything out. And I'm standing in the cabin looking out the front door about 35 yards away. There is something staring back at me. And I said to my wife, "Do you see what I'm seeing?" And she's like, "Yeah." I said, "What is that?" She goes, "It's probably a stump." And I said, "The stump has a head and shoulders and a body." And she's like, "Well, I don't see that." I said, "So what I saw was it looked like a gorilla. It was sitting on its butt in that gorilla posture,
Mhm.
like sitting up, legs in front of it, arms in front of that, shoulders, head, and it's looking straight at us." And
Like sitting on the ground, like on his butt.
sitting on its butt on the ground about 35 yards away, right before the stream, a little off to the right. And I'm looking at it out the front door. And of course, here I am again. I'm not sure if that could be a stump. I'm not sure. I start loading more stuff in the car, go back inside, look out the window. It's still there. I said to I think I said to my son, "You see that?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "What do you think it is?" He's like, "I don't know." So I guess the funny part is I said, I mentioned it to my wife again, and she said, "Well, if you think it's something, why don't you go down there and check it out?"
That
I,
sounds like my wife. Hey, why
I
don't you just run down there and get eaten real quick? Let me know.
right. I wasn't going to do it. I absolutely wasn't going to do it. And I know it sounds like a coward move, but I had my wife and my two kids to think about. And let's just say I did go down there, I have absolutely no protection but a knife that's probably 6 inches long. The blade's 6 inches, the handle's 6 inches. So it's not a very big knife. But what am I going to do with it? I mean, if this thing is what I've always heard about, let's hope it's peaceful. But if it's not, I'm in deep trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk outside. I walk out on the landing. There's a fire pit and there's some chairs and stuff around. And I go to the very, very edge and stare at it. And I turn around, like I'm just puzzled. I turn around and I start to turn away. And as I look back, I absolutely know I saw what I saw because it turned its head. So it kind of turned its head away from me for a minute, like it was looking at something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I'm like, oh my God, that is a Bigfoot. That has to be a Bigfoot. What else can it be? It was black and brown. And it was, if I had to guess, it looked like it could be 6 feet tall. But again, it was sitting on its butt. And I was trying to adjust for height. I thought, he looks like he could be my height. And I don't know if that necessarily accounts for a 10-inch print. A 10-inch print might mean a smaller one, which means there could have been two or more. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But that absolutely freaked me out. I took a few more glances at it, went back in, got everybody out in the car, and then it was gone. So then I knew what I saw was real because it was no longer there. So I was worried it was going to parallel us. So I said, I'll drive. And backed the car out in a 3-point turn and took it off the driveway, probably a little faster than I should, but got back out to the main road, which is about a mile back in and got out of there. And that was really, that was it. And I have to say, I'm a little ashamed of myself in that it scared me. And it never made a menacing tone towards me that I'm aware of, unless, maybe those sounds it made, when I was changing my shoes, but nothing, no rocks thrown. I didn't smell anything. Um, I don't know. It's very possible I might have been one of the few people that had been in that cabin in a long time. Maybe it was curious, but I don't think it perceived me as a threat. I tried not to do anything that would make it think I was a threat. Like I wasn't going to go over and bang on a tree or start screaming. The last
Mhm.
thing I wanted to do was attract it. I mean, I was really more concerned about my kids and my wife than I was about anything else. And I didn't want to take that chance that if that's what it is, how do I protect myself?
Yeah.
So it really concerned me. And I want to say that I think that's the ultimate experience is to know what you saw and to walk away with nobody getting hurt. I wish everybody felt like that, but some people would rather do things to it, and I don't have that capacity. My family is from law enforcement, and if
Mhm.
there's one thing my dad taught me is to be careful, and don't get yourself in a situation you can't handle.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my story, and that was very enlightening. I know a lot of people say, I'd love to see one, and this was definitely the best way to see one.
Yeah, from a little ways away.
Yeah, we didn't cut our vacation short, but we didn't stay long. It was just kind of a,
Mhm.
just a trip, but it was a highlight for me, although I don't believe my family saw as much in it as I did. But I tried to really not throw it on them. I kind of made it my, like, kind of my quest to see what it was all about. But
Yeah.
they didn't seem to understand the potential. Of course, they don't get into the stories that I read. They don't read them, that I'm aware of. So they probably don't know what I know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my kids from time to time they'll listen to something of mine. And I told them, of my experience. One of my sons it was a weird experience up there. We lived up on the mountain over at a friend's house up there that lived about a mile across from us, down the ravine and up another hillside. And something had slammed its hand on the back of the building, this big outbuilding that him and his buddy were playing in, of his buddy's grandfather's place. And his grandparents were actually in the house watching TV. Whatever it is, it actually slapped the side of the building. And this is 7 miles up in the mountains out of town.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the neighbors up there pretty much keep to themselves. So nobody's just wandering around up there. I mean, yeah. You can't see one house from the other up there.
Right.
I mean, I could see theirs on a good day. I was probably the only one because it was like the highest on the mountain. But that was the only house I could see. And that's only when in the fall and the winter when the foliage was so thin. So, he had his own thing, which kind of freaked him out a little bit. So, wow. So you got can you like describe a little bit more of like the physical aspects of this thing that you can remember?
I feel like what I saw in my mind, my brain interpreted that thing as a gorilla. It had a conical head. It was mostly brown, but it looked like there were dark spots. I'm not sure if that was shade from the tree or if that was maybe patches of darkness. I don't know if it was dark skin. I mean, I didn't, at
It could
100.
have maybe like a mange almost
Yeah.
that it could have been
Um,
suffering from had.
it looked fairly broad. I mean, I'm pretty broad. I wear a 2XL, and I mean, I guess I wasn't that close that I could say, it was wider than me, but it was wide. It had the posture of a gorilla. Um, the way it was sitting, it just really. I guess the scariest moment was when it turned its head, because that was an absolute verification that it was real. Like that's a real
Like it's
thing.
a
Like
living
that,
creature. Yeah.
I mean, that's what made me want to get in the car more.
Yeah, some people say that, they have like no neck or anything, something like that. Did you notice a neck when it turned its head? Did it have a
I
neck?
felt like it had a slight neck like a gorilla does. I'm sure the head
Okay.
is so large that it looks like it's sitting on its shoulders, but it absolutely turned its head.
Yeah, that's what I feel too. I share that same sentiment because, you look at the Patty film, you look at things like that, and you notice that while it does turn its body, it still does turn its head to a certain point, certain degree. Gorillas can do that. Apes can do that. They can turn their
Sure.
head to a point without
And
turning their whole body.
and to anybody who even cares, I am absolutely not a researcher. I don't go out looking for anything, but I take hikes like anybody else. I take
Mhm.
walk hikes, I camp, and I've found prints, and they are absolutely um, a print. I mean, the ones I've found are not bear prints; they are Bigfoot prints, and I've found them in Medoc Mountain State Park. I've found them in local Virginia parks around where I live.
Can you tell
They
us about a couple of those? How you came across them, where they were at?
Yeah, Medoc Mountain was the spookiest. I've been there a few times. There's a cryptozoology and paranormal museum in Littleton, North Carolina, and I talked to the owner. His name is Stephen Barcelo. I talked to him, and he told me to go down there. He's like, "Look, if you go down there, I guarantee you'll find prints." He's like, the place has had numerous reports. He's like, I get them all the time. He's like, when people have an experience, they come into my museum and they tell me about it. I'm telling you, you go there, you'll probably uh, at least find a print. Who knows what'll happen?
Hmm.
So I did make a few trips down there. One with a friend of mine, and we found tree structures. And again, nobody can verify tree structures or what they are, but they were pretty bizarre. One of them was over 10 feet in height. I couldn't jump to touch the tree twists. They were 2 inches in circumference, 2 inches, 2 inches in diameter. Sorry, and then twisted together, like at a height of 10 feet. Um, the prints I found there, I actually would, put my foot next to them, and they were, so I think about a size 16 is like 13 and a half inches. These were 14 inches. They were bigger than my foot and wider than my foot. However, they were old. A couple of them looked like they were several days old, or maybe a week or 2 weeks old, but they were absolutely a print not made by a bear. I don't know if you know, on the East Coast, at least in that area, talking to the people in the park, they don't have big bear, if any at all. They said they've rarely seen bear in their park, and they're
Hmm.
typically, 4 foot, 3.5 foot, 4 foot, 4.5 foot in size, very small.
Yeah. Oh,
I've
that's
I
interesting.
found one print in another park that I actually shared over Messenger with. Not sure if you know who this guy is Daniel Benoit. He's a researcher over here in Southwest Virginia. He's a
Mm.
real researcher. He actually researches. He actually spends time out there looking.
His name sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, he's part of something called the ECBRO, and it's his organization. And I got him on camera, on video, and I showed him the print, and he was like, "That is absolutely not a bear."
And
So then
you
I,
got pictures of those?
yeah, and
You
I
should send me over one. I'll post it up.
okay,
Okay.
and yeah, I was absolutely blown away. The negative part of that was my son was freaking out. He was thinking that there was something like, practically behind us. So Daniel was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to freak your son out, but yeah, that's definitely not a bear, and that's not a person, and that's a Bigfoot." And you could see the detail. It was pretty amazing, and it was kind of in a sandy dirt, but was really shocking. I think I've found. I think if I've got my count right, I think I've found 5 prints, and this is before what I found on this spring break trip. So if you think Virginia doesn't have them, they do. They're
Mhm.
not solely in the PacWest,
Oh,
but
wow.
they're definitely in other places. And I feel like more of a believer than ever. Although I don't go around throwing my story to anybody who wants to listen, because if they want to listen, they can on my channel.
Wow.
That's basically it. Thank you so much,
Nice,
Dave,
man.
for having me on. I appreciate this.
Oh, that was awesome. And, let everybody else out there in the PacWest Bigfoot world know that, Mike's over there at Bigfoot's Wilderness, and you can find him over there. And he's starting to collect his own encounter stories and stuff from folks around the country as a whole, and sharing those over there. So get on over there, follow along. That is just absolutely awesome. Just sitting there, huh? Just sitting there around, just hands and everything. Did those arms and legs seem pretty long?
It did. It looked like his arm went down to his knee, or I thought it assumed where his knee was. Like, it looked like he was in a posture where he was like, "Hey, if I had some popcorn, I just sit here and watch you guys go in and out the door." But it was absolutely observing us, and it was, near a tree, not just sitting out in the open, but you could definitely say to yourself, um, you could see it, it could see you. We were in plain visibility of each other. I'm thankful we were 35, 40 yards away from each other.
Mhm.
Wasn't sitting like, below the landing, where it could potentially charge us, or who God only knows. But it was, you know, something that I don't think I'll ever forget. I do feel like, I'm sure you've heard people say this, once they've seen one, they know what to look for. I kind of feel like that. I kind of feel like if I were to see another one, or if I would assume something was there, I would know what to look for, because I feel like I got a pretty
You'd be
good.
able to pick it out of all of the nondescript, like just shapes and forms out in the woods.
Yeah, I'm an East Coast guy. I was born and raised in Maryland, and I've went to the National Zoo, the Smithsonian National Zoo, hundreds of times, and I've stood next to the gorillas, and in their area in the ape house. And on one particular time, it again won't leave my head, there's a spot in the ape house where they have a bubble where a gorilla can walk and put its head into the bubble, kind of almost like in the area where the observers are.
Hmm.
And I remember on one particular time, a silverback walked up and stuck his head in the bubble, and I ran up to it. I was probably like 16. I ran up to it, and we were about maybe an inch and a half apart from each other. I was sticking my face at it, and it was kind of giving me a sideways glance. I could see the whites of its eyes.
Hmm.
Its head was enormous. I mean, it had to be 3 times the size of my head, and it was just such a powerful looking animal. And again, their upper bodies are massive. Their legs are a lot smaller. They don't,
Yeah. I've
probably.
been in the pen with in a pen with bears, grizzly bear and a brown bear. A long time ago, when David Sidden was working with Wildlife Images back in the day, and so it was, even a bear back then was just massive, just insane to just stand next to one and try not to freak out.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my gosh. I mean, this bear is like, on all fours, was still coming up to, almost my chest. And I'm just like, good night of living. This thing is huge, you
And
know?
in my mind, I just keep comparing that gorilla to what I saw, because it seemed, in my head, it seems similar. It seems like what I saw with the conical head, with the broadness, with the way it was sitting.
Mm.
Many times I've seen a gorilla sitting in the ape house, the way they sit in their posture. It just reminded me of an ape. I couldn't think human. I couldn't think hybrid. I thought ape. That's
Was its
exactly.
legs kind of like bowed, or were they kind of straight out? Because I see apes too here, and they're kind of bowed when they're sitting down with their
You know,
hands in between.
this was more bowed, and the knees were slightly up. So I couldn't see feet because the feet were in the grass. The grass was fairly long. When you walked through the grass, it was
Yeah.
probably a foot and a half tall. So
Hmm.
when you walked through the grass, you would see, your trail behind you.
Hmm.
It was really uh, surreal.
Huh.
It's a word to describe it.
Interesting. Wow. Well, thanks, man, for sharing with us. That was
You're welcome.
awesome.
It's not like I don't think about it every day. So
Yeah, really. No. Yeah, even with me, every few weeks, at least once a month, a couple times a month, I'll think about that time with my mom finding those tracks, and then I'll think about 20 years later, something just walking and in the middle of the night, and it was just crazy.
yeah,
It really does. It gets you, and you're just like, man, I was like this close to this right here, and you're just
I guess I'm grateful that I didn't do anything that would potentially. I don't know that I could have done anything, but I'm grateful that I was able to just walk away from it.
yeah. Well, I've got one encounter that was pretty awesome about a kid when he was younger, and he came within. I mean, the thing walked right past him, just about over him.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I was like, "You what?" I actually had to email this person back just to kind of. I was just like really intrigued. I'm hoping to maybe get an interview with that guy. We'll see. I'm hoping. That was one of those ones that you really want to hear this person. So I'm trying.
Yeah, I'd love
So
to hear that one.
yeah, interesting. All right, hang on, Mike. All right.
Thanks.
And hang on right here. I'll be right with you in just a second. But thank you guys very much for being here on PacWest Bigfoot and these interviews here. Got some more coming up for you here pretty soon. And if they're already here, go ahead and listen to them and have some fun and enjoy. And go out there, get out there. And when you're out in the woods, be safe. But like Mike said, keep your eyes peeled. Look around. Look for things that just seem a little out of place and a little extraordinary. Okay? All right, with that, guys, from the beautiful Pacific Northwest, land of Plaid and Coffee, PacWest Bigfoot. God bless.